This is the School Success Podcast, a podcast for school leaders to learn from other school leaders what's working and what's not, and to get inspiration and encouragement, as well as strategies to grow school enrollment, connect with families, retain teachers, recruit teachers, and everything in between. You guys are heroes, and I cannot thank you enough for pouring into this next generation that's coming behind us. My goal is you will take at least one thing away from every episode that you can take back to your school to make it better than it is right now. Please enjoy the School Success Podcast. This podcast is brought to you by the Herzog Foundation.
Time for school.
Hey, School Success Makers. Welcome to another edition of the School Success Podcast. I'm your host, Mitchell Slater, joined by a new friend out of the great state of Washington, Craig Randall, who's the author and developer of Trust-Based Observations, and he is based in Seattle, Washington. I love Seattle. It's home of Starbucks and a whole bunch of other cool things. Fun place to walk around downtown, so I love it. We're going to have a fun conversation about his book and what he's doing and how he uses this to help school leaders all over the country. But before we jump into all of those things, of course, I always pass it off to our guests to introduce themselves first. So, Craig, welcome to the podcast today, sir.
Thanks, Mitchell. Thanks for having me on. I'm really grateful for the opportunity. Yeah, I was a school principal myself, school leader for a long time. Along the way, I frankly accidentally developed this new way of doing teacher observations that's much more teacher friendly, where you know you can take risks, have it go awry, and know you're going to be applauded for the effort, as opposed to feeling like I can't take a risk because I'm going to get in trouble. And a whole system developed around it. And now I literally train school leaders all over the globe in how to do trust-based observations. That's my nutshell version of what I do.
Love it. Well, I'm excited to jump in with you in just a few minutes on that, but I always start with the same question for everybody. And it's this: if I was to visit you in Seattle, Washington, what would you say, Mitchell? You need to eat this and do this to experience Seattle, Washington.
Oh, well, I mean, seafood, obviously, you have to eat. That leaves us all kinds of choices. We don't have to limit ourselves that way. And then do this. I mean, obviously, Pike Place Market, everyone knows. Go to Mount Rainier. And come in the summer, because June, July, and August, September are great. The rest of the year, you don't want the rain. So that's probably the most important piece of advice.
I love it. Oh, man, that chowder there in Seattle, I can't remember what's the chowder place called there in downtown?
Oh, gosh. Was it Ivers?
Oh, man.
God, there's so many. I don't know. Elliott Bay. I don't know. You can get chowder everywhere here.
It's whatever it was the best I've ever had in my entire life. And I remember waiting out the door. It was brick, you had to go inside. It was small seating. You had to wait for a seat. I mean, it was packed. And I can't remember. It was right there downtown, close to Pike Place. Like you could walk across, whatever it was delicious. And I loved it. I was like, and then I told my wife, I was like, there's no way I'm going to like this because I don't like clams. And then I was like, I just loved it. It was amazing. So good food is easy to find in Seattle.
For sure.
Well, hey, jumping in, give me a little bit background on you. You talk about being a school leader, and you did that for a while, and then you obviously have shifted. You're into this. You're training people all over the globe with what you're doing with your book. Tell me a little bit more about that, and then I got some specific questions for you of how this can apply to the school leaders listening today.
Sure. Actually, going back further, I started out as a school counselor. Did that for about 8 years, elementary school mostly, middle school with severe behavior kids in the classroom. Then I actually pivoted to small college coaching of basketball for about 7 years. And then that led to international school teaching. One of the principals said, I think you'd make a great principal. That's where I met my mentor that really started this process about what we need to be doing as leaders to supporting and helping teachers grow. And then it just evolved in my international school career, which I think the only way I could develop it was in international schools where there weren't any requirements about how you had to do it. And at some point along the way, one of the principals I worked with said, Craig, you need to protect your work. And I think I'd kind of been oblivious to the fact that what I was doing was a thing until he said that. And then I thought, oh, thanks. So then I thought I should present at a conference. I did. It went really well. Thought I should write an article. It got accepted right away. And then we ended up coming back home from our overseas adventures, and we had some money saved up. And so I went to a coffee shop every day and wrote a book, and it's been an Amazon bestseller in 5 different countries. And now I train school leaders all over the world on how to how to adopt this system that teachers and leaders love, something that should be horrible or that people think is a horrible experience on both ends, observing or being observed or have to give ratings that are lower than what you want to give them. Now we take all that out and it just becomes a strengths-based thing, and teachers feel more confident and you enjoy the conversation because it's not stressful for them. And then when trust is built, which is what happens, teachers are so much more willing to embrace risks, trying new things, because like you said earlier, they know even if it doesn't go the way you want it to, which actually goes way more the way you want it to anyway, they know it's going to be okay.
That's awesome. Has it been easier being in other countries doing this than the United States for it?
You know what? People are people. And most of my overseas, well, the UK has been working certainly what we would call public schools, or a lot of special needs schools in the UK, actually. Most of the international schools have been, most of the schools internationally have been international schools. So they're largely a Western group of teachers as well. So it's not really that big of a cultural divide. But I will say I did a school in the Philippines in August, and the whole staff and leadership team was Filipino. So it was the first time I'd had a completely different culture. And it's a culture that's very, they smile even when they're getting criticized, and it's very non-confrontational. And so there were some of the people in the training that were a little skeptical. And then after we had the first reflective conversation with the teacher and they saw their reaction, they were like, oh my gosh. And then it was, for me, it was confirmation that humans are humans and it works with everybody no matter what.
So how are schools currently, with let's say without you in the picture, how are they currently doing reviews of teachers and school leader? Like, what is it currently done before you come into the play and add a different scope of how you do it?
Yeah, I mean, it's been the same way for about 25 years. There's two models, Danielson and Marzano, that predominate the U.S. system. And really, it's a list of indicators of good practice. And they can be like, the lists are cute, 60 to 75, 76 indicators. And you have a pre-observation conference where you tell me what you're going to teach. And then I come in and watch you, but I'm not seeing a real teaching. I'm seeing the teaching that you're doing that you put on steroids to tick all the boxes. And I know it and you know it, which makes it absurd. And then we have a conversation that's not an authentic conversation because it's not about teaching, but I have to give you ratings on all of those 76 indicators. And if I don't see something, then you have to provide evidence to me often as to why that was actually a part of your practice. You just didn't happen to see it. And the research shows that as soon as you put the ratings in there, what ends up happening is trust diminishes and people play it safe and they don't take a risk, which also shows in the research that shows what we've been doing the last 25 years has zero improvement in teaching and learning. So that's really what predominates. And there's shorter visits too, but that once you've got that one system in, it doesn't matter where you're doing the shorter visits that aren't the same, it still feels the same to the teachers. And so they end up being cautious. That's really what predominates right now.
And that's what everybody's used to then. It's been that way, you said, for 25 years. They're like, oh, here we go. Is it a once a year thing that typically is what's happening?
It really depends. I mean, so when different states and different rules, but tenure would be sometimes it could only sometimes be as little as once every 5 years, which is like, how can I foster growth? But even once a year, sometimes newer teachers, usually it's more frequent. And oftentimes they will build in these shorter, what they call walkthrough visits. I don't love the term, but the culture of it, it just permeates everything. And what ends up happening is when I have to start rating you on a scale of 1 to 4, I start seeing you through a deficit mindset lens. So I start looking at you at what's wrong with you. And then it's not purposeful. It's just the system starts to slowly make you think that way. And so when I want to help you, I'm not thinking about you from a strengths-based lens. So my perception of you generally isn't as strong. But when you change it and you take out those ratings and you start to look at what's right, and our form is highly detailed, so it allows me to be really specific with what's right. And then I share that with you and I see your reaction. But then all of a sudden I start to see you from a new, more positive lens. And it's so much easier for me to help you when I'm looking at you through that lens, which is exactly the same way that we would say we want teachers to do. Like, no matter what's going on with that kid, no matter how much trouble he is, I've got to see what's good in there. What do I like about him? Where there's things that I can build from, even if they're little things. And it should be exactly the same way with teachers, and it just hasn't been.
What do you think's been the disconnect with that? It's just the way it's worked for 25 years, or we think it's been working this way for 25 years. Let's just stick with it. If it ain't broke, don't fix it type of mindset. Like, why has it been that way for so long?
listen, everybody's well-intended. I'm going to preface it with that. There was a report that came out in 1983 that basically, it was a really inaccurate report that said the state of education in the U.S. was in a really bad place. They said things like, if the state of education was perpetrated by a foreign power, we would call it an act of war. Literal line from it. And that was the first call for increased accountability and rigor and merit pay as the path to improve teachers. So that started it. And then this one, Charlotte Danielson, created this framework, which it has these 75 different indicators of good practice. And it was originally used for self-assessment, but in 2000, she changed it into teacher evaluation. Then No Child Left Behind happens in 2002. And so what do? They take that, and that's No Child Left Behind is looking for highly qualified teachers. So that's another step on that accountability, more rigorous evaluation is the way to grow people. So then that predominates. And then in 2009, Race to the Top actually mandated federal education funds tied to stricter teacher evaluation laws. And so you've just gotten this system that's been built in place for 25 years. But then in 2018 and 2021, 24, different huge studies came out that said it's not improving teaching and learning. Like, the part that I don't get is, why are we still then doing it when we've got this research out there that says it doesn't? But I think legislators are largely not educators. They don't know about what's going on. And I also think it's like a businessman's mindset about like stricter accountability, like almost like a sales commission thing, like, we'll get them by incentivizing them that way. But teaching is a kind profession, and that doesn't work with them. It works better when, frankly, I think it's with all humanities. But when we look at your strengths and work at you, see what you're doing well first and build you from there, we're going to see more success and growth. And that is what we see.
Hey, school success makers, Mitchell here. I just want to take a really quick break from the show to give a big, huge shout out to the Herzog Foundation. I absolutely love the Herzog Foundation. I've been friends and partners with them for a couple years now, but we're bringing it to a whole new level. And I'm excited to share that our very own School Success podcast is now featured on the Herzog Foundation Podcast Network. The Herzog Foundation is a powerhouse of resources designed to support schools like yours, from free training events through the Herzog Foundation Institute to their incredible online news publication, The Lion, and of course, our new podcast, Home. They have everything you need to stay informed and inspired. And if you're dreaming of starting your own Christian school or co-op, don't miss their online course, Schoolbox. It's a fantastic resource to help you get started on the right foot. At School Success, we're proud to partner with the Herzog Foundation to bring you these valuable tools and insights. So visit herzogfoundation.com to explore all they have to offer. Trust me, you won't want to miss out on these amazing opportunities for growth and success. And I love all the people over there, and I know you guys will too. So please go check them out, and you won't be disappointed. Now, back to the show. So how does yours then now come into play, and how does it differ from what the status quo, I guess, currently is?
Well, one, we don't rate pedagogy because the research makes it clear that as soon as you do that, relational trust diminishes and teachers play it safe. The research also shows when you rate pedagogy, it causes teachers anxiety, stress, trauma, and maybe most concerning to me, it actually lowers their sense of self-efficacy. Like, how are we going to improve them when they're feeling less confident about themselves, or how are we going to support them in growing? And so we take that out. We still evaluate teachers because they have to be evaluated, but we evaluate them on like your professionalism, how you get along with others, what's your mindset towards growth, things like that you would evaluate anybody on. And if you're a poor teacher, it's going to manifest in those ways anyway. So we take that part out, and we really, really focus on strengths. And we start, well, so the research says when you have more than 10 indicators on your form, you start to lose the forest through the trees, and it becomes a tick box exercise. So I'm telling you 60, 75 indicators. We just have 9 core indicators of good practice. So now it's manageable, and I can see what you're doing. And it's highly detailed, like I said. But I think when we have the conversation the next day is when the magic really happens. And it starts not by telling you. It starts by saying, I value you, by asking questions instead of starting. So we always ask 2 questions. And the first is, what were you doing pedagogically speaking to help students learn? And the second is, if you had the chance to reteach the lesson, what, if anything, might you have done differently? But even when we have those conversations, like Brené Brown talks about the connection between trust, vulnerability, and risk-taking. And she says, and research says, when vulnerability is too high, people won't take risks. She says the way you lower vulnerability so people are willing to take risks is by building trust. She has this really fantastic metaphor of, if you think of like a jar, and each positive, consistent action is putting a marble in the jar. Trust takes time, and you need to fill that jar up before you're going to get people to take risks. And so during that reflective conversation, we do all these little things that are very, very purposefully designed to build trust. Like we have the conversation in their room instead of our office, because whether you're 7, 17, or 37, getting called to the principal's office feels like getting called to the principal's office. We ask permission when we come to your room. That's a marble. We sit beside you, not across from you, because that lowers conflict, or feeling of conflict. That's a marble. We show the form instead of hiding. That's a marble. We start by asking those questions. That's a marble. We share back our answers, so we've been active listening. That's a marble. And we share all these strengths, and we don't feel compelled to offer suggestions right away. Like people have, I need to fix something, or I need to tell them what to do every time. And it's okay, but we've got 25 years saying the way we've been doing it doesn't work. And if trust isn't there, they're not going to really go for it. So we wait until the fourth visit. There's exceptions if you're a new teacher or something egregious happens. But even once we get to the part where we're offering suggestions, traditionally, we just say, hey, Mitch, I'd really like you to work on cooperative learning. Period. That's it. Or, oh, and here's an article. Like we would never say to a third grader, hey, Mitch, I'd really like you to work on those multiplication facts. Period. Or, oh, here's a times table. So that's what we traditionally do. But now we ask permission to offer a suggestion. Hey, Mitch, I have a suggestion on cooperative learning. Would you like to hear? I'm giving you a choice. People will say yes, but no one likes to be told. If I say, Mitch, I want you to work in cooperative learning versus Mitch, I have a suggestion on, just think how it feels differently to you. Yeah. And then we work with you. We don't just tell you, we work beside you to really help you implement that. And that might mean my modeling for you. It might be co-teaching it with you. It might be you teaching it and I'm in the moment giving suggestive feedback. But all that together is dramatically different than what we've been seeing in the last 25 years. And we blend professional development into those areas of pedagogy where teachers get to choose which area they work in. And they work once a month on getting better at it with in-house experts facilitating that group towards mastery. So that's all really different than what we've been doing the last 25 years.
Man, definitely. That's why I loved you sharing how it currently is done by others and how it is now. It is completely different. And you're right. Trust is huge. That goes in so many different areas, like even just parenting. You're just like, if your kid's not trusting you in that situation, they're not going to want to listen. They're going to feel scared. They're not going to want to open up. And so that, of course, transcends into other areas as well.
It's universal.
100%. And so like for this, like what's the time frame you're talking about? The fourth time you offer suggestions. What's the time frame we're talking about here?
So we have 20-minute unannounced visits, and actually 20 minutes they're unannounced. So what are we seeing? We're seeing authentic teaching. And then as soon as teachers experience the first round and know that it's a strengths-based model, they actually like it because they don't have to stress ahead of time. It can be real teaching and real conversations. And then we see you really once every 3 to 4 weeks. Okay. Crazy happens in school, so sometimes 3 weeks becomes 5 weeks because you get 2 crazy weeks. But we see you frequently, and the trust builds over that time. So if I'm seeing you once every 3 to 4 weeks, that's 10, 12 weeks into the school year. That's just the first year. Once you're into it, second year and beyond, you've already got that trust built. So whenever it's time for the next thing to do. So if I've got 25 years of not improving, and now I have to wait 12 weeks, but what I'm going to do is actually going to lead to improved teaching and learning that's going to make a difference in the lives of those kids. Hello, wait. And sometimes you have to bite your tongue sometimes because you see something and you feel like, oh, I want to help them right now. Yeah, but it's worth the payoff.
I love that because here I heard this from a guest we had on probably 3 years ago at this point. I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. She talked about when one of their teachers in the school has a suggestion, something they want to try, instead of them going, because they were a small private school, instead of them going, let's talk about it, plan it out, do it next fall and see how it goes. They're like, just try it. Just see if how it works. He goes, because if it is beneficial, then we just cheated these kids out of 9 months of waiting for something that's actually going to better their learning experience. Like, what's your take on that kind of mindset?
100%. One, and if you've got teachers that are like, you've done something to create a mindset where teachers are willing to do that, and they're like saying, hey, they're super excited and passionate about it. Why in the hell would you ever squelch that? I mean, and most of the time it's going to be great anyway. And if it's not, you work to grow it. And if it's not and you realize, oh, that one didn't work, then you throw it in the bin. I mean, it's a win no matter what, because you learn things that are going to help everyone grow.
And you've seen this, I'm sure, like the teachers, they get into it because they have a love for learning. And I feel like from the teachers I've met, school leaders I've met, they get into it because they love students, they love teaching, all that, and they get into it, and then they're not able to flex that muscle that they love. And so it's kind of just makes it not fun anymore. Is that kind of what you're seeing in these observations too?
What I would say is I agree. 98% of people get into teaching because they want to make a difference in the lives of young people. And along the way, a percentage, not insignificant percentage, become more fixed mindset from growth mindset. It could be bad teacher observations. It could be I've just become set in my ways. It could be traumatic stuff that's happening at home. And whatever it is, it doesn't matter. But we definitely see that. And what we see is that as we spend time doing these observations, by the fourth and I'm not going to say 100%, but almost 100%, by the fourth round, whenever I'm ready to offer a suggestion, those teachers have flipped because we've been sharing their strengths and we've been empowering them and making them feel appreciated. People need to feel appreciated. 75% of people leave their jobs because they don't feel appreciated. All of a sudden, they're feeling valued. And so what has become growth mindset that shifted more to fixed mindset starts to come back to growth. And when we ask permission to offer that suggestion, they go for it. It transforms them right back into it.
Man. So if somebody's listening and they're like, well, maybe they're small. I know we have a lot of smaller Christian school listeners. Listeners, and they're like, well, man, we want to do this. We're not either doing anything or we're doing it. We're just kind of winging it. Like, what would you suggest? Like, is it just simple as just, hey, if you buy my book, you can just follow the steps yourself and do it as you can do this, facilitate this with your teachers, or what's the best path forward?
I'm going to say I'm proud that I was able to put what I was in my head or what I was doing onto paper and do it with the form of a book. Yet a book can never put into practice. There's a lot of subtleties and little things involved and nuance that make from book to live happen. And so what I recommend is one, we've trained other faith-based and Christian schools. I was just training a St. Cloud Christian school in Minnesota not that long ago. And so we're happy to put you in touch with other school leaders that have been trained, faith-based school leaders, so you can see what their experience is like. But I really think there is no substitute for training. And look, I know this too. I know different schools have different budgets, and some are maybe more prestige faith-based schools, and some are just barely getting by. And I'll just say that we work with schools in their situations to find a way to make it work financially for them. So I don't ever want that to be an obstacle because we're here to change the way we do observations. So I just say, reach out, email me, go to my website, whatever, and we can take it from there.
Hey, I just want to take a really quick break from the podcast to highlight one of our amazing partners and sponsors, ClassReach. If you're a new school administrator or founder and are struggling to keep up with all the hassles of planting a new school, like collecting tuition, communicating with parents, or handling student data, then you need ClassReach. ClassReach is the all-in-one software that helps with everything from admissions and tuition to classroom management and parent communications. Sign up for a free consultation with one of their school specialists and see how ClassReach can help your school grow today. You guys can check them out online, classreach.com. They are a kingdom-minded company, and I love their leadership team there. I've become friends with a lot of them. They truly are a great company. I support them, and I love them, and you guys will love them too. Check them out at classreach.com. Now, back to the show. Let's go ahead. I know we're not done quite yet, but let's go ahead and plug that. Just since you mentioned it, plug what's the best way they can find the book and touch with you, what you do.
Sure. Well, Amazon.com for the book. TrustBased, 𝒕𝑟USTBASED, TrustBased.com is the website. And Craig at TrustBased.com is the email.
Boom. Easy. All right, I like it. It's good. What are some of the wins you've seen come out of this? So obviously you've been doing this long enough. There's got to be some cool stories that have come from this.
No, I've got two good ones, I think, and it really does transform culture. Maybe 3 stories, but we had a school that we were going to train in the UK, and they'd had 2 really, really toxic head teachers before. One so toxic that they'd called a teacher the C word, which isn't quite as toxic in the UK as it is in the US. And I don't mean crap, by the way. and in front of other teachers. And then this amazing new heart-centered woman comes in, and it's during COVID. She takes over. So there's 2 years where there's no observations going on, because a lot of times people during COVID were like, that just doesn't make sense. So she gets a hold of trust-based observations. She hires me to come out and train them. A week before the training, she emails me frantically saying, Craig, we gotta cancel. I'm sorry. I told my teachers about it and they're all freaking out because their vision was it was going to be like what it was before. And I said, it's going to be okay. She said, okay, but you have to talk to them Monday morning. And I never do that, but I was like, okay. So I go and I tell them all about it. And one of the things that we always tell people is the goal of trust-based observations is to build enough trust that any observer can come into your room, observe you, see you trying something new, have it be a train wreck, but as opposed to a more traditional observation where we'd be freaking out about it being a disaster while you're being evaluated. You won't be worried about that because you'll know the next day the first thing I'm going to say when they come into your class is, Mitch, I love it that you were trying something new. And then we say, because when we created those conditions, what will happen? You'll keep trying new things. So midweek, we go and observe a teacher. By her own account and the account of every leader on the team, she's the most change-averse teacher in the school. Prior to our training, she had a KEG and cooperative learning training because that's one of the areas of pedagogy on our form for her staff. We go in and watch. She does some KEG and cooperative learning structures, and she does a really great job. We come back, have the reflective conversation, and she says, I never would have done frankly, I never would have done the KEG and cooperative training, whether I was being observed or not. But I listened to what you said on Monday morning, and I thought, oh, okay, I did it. And then afterwards, she said, teachers just want to be heard and valued. But then this is the best part. The next morning, the school leader that led that reflective conversation said, oh, you guys, I got to tell you, yesterday afternoon, that teacher ended up walking out at the same time I did. And she walked up to me and she said, I just want you to know that today meant more to me than you'll ever know, and gave me a big hug. And that's impact. And then we left on Friday. The Tuesday afterward, the head teacher emailed me and just said, Craig, the halls are buzzing. The teachers are so excited. She said, the healing has begun. So that's one. You want two more?
I love it. Give me two more. That was awesome. That one was in Europe, you said?
That was in the UK. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome.
Okay. So when we first started, we just had one training, but what we've realized is we have to have a second training for the part where we offer suggestions. And so we were at a school not too long ago when we were doing part 2 where we were offering suggestions, asking permission to offer suggestions. And so there was this young teacher, 26. He was really good. He had great energy. He ran a tight class. The kids loved him. It was super engaging. He was super passionate. When we were watching him, and this is something they kind of noticed over time, was he does a decent job with the cooperative engagement, but not everybody's engaged. And so we thought there was room for growth with that. And so it came to the point to ask permission to offer a suggestion. It was about adding this cooperative learning strategy. And it was a lit study. And so they would stop. He would give them a passage. And with the new strategy, they were, something to write about related to what they'd read. So then each kid would write about it. And then they would hand it to the kid to the right. That kid would read their response and write a response to their response. Then it would come back to the other kid, and then that kid would write a response to that kid's response. And then they would go the other way. Every kid was just so engaged. It was amazing. So we were talking to him afterwards because we have a follow-up conversation to that. And he said, I got to tell you, when we came back from recess, all the kids were saying, can we keep doing it? Can we keep doing it? So already that's a huge win right there. But I have a podcast of my own where I interview teachers that are really impressive when I'm training so that word can be spread about what they're doing. So I have him on that, and he says, I got to tell you, the next Tuesday, I met with our whole grade level team. We had a grade level meeting, and I told them about this new strategy. I told them how great it went. I showed them all how I did it. I gave them what I'd done on it. And now the whole team is doing it. And so for those that know John Hattie's work, John Hattie's done all this research on effect size on learning. The highest effect size by a lot is collective teacher efficacy. Well, what is that? That's collective teacher efficacy. It's teachers training other teachers. So that was the second one.
Love it. Got one more?
All right, yeah, I've got one more. So this one's really about culture and how it can transform culture in a week. So we're at an international school in Phnom Penh, Cambodia. It's a large international school. And before we come, people say, "What should we tell them?" We just say, "Look, just tell them we're adopting this new model. We think you're going to love it." For those that get observed, seeing 6 people come with a laptop is going to be stressful. But as soon as you have the conversation afterwards, we know you're going to feel great. We just leave it like that because there's nothing else you can really say. So on Friday afternoon, the superintendent and I are walking out, and on the way out, we practice during the week, and we see 12 or 14 teachers. So obviously, you're not seeing the majority. So on the way out, at 3 different times, we ran across a teacher we had not observed. All of them said almost verbatim the same thing, and they all had the same sort of wistful tone. They all said something along the lines of, "Oh, I thought you were going to observe me." So, think about that. In essence, teachers are saying, "No fair, I didn't get my turn being observed." And so, how did that happen? It happened because teachers are gossips. So, 2 things happen simultaneously after they finish. The teacher that finishes, like, "Oh, you'll never guess what it was like." Well, everyone else is saying, "What was it like? What was it like?" And they start hearing about how it feels valued and how all these strengths shared with you. And so, then by the end of the week, they want to be observed. That's a culture of trust in 5 days.
I love it. Those are 3 powerhouse stories from 3 different countries, it sounds like, too, right?
It was. Yep. Mm-hmm.
All right. So school's listening. They go, "Yeah, okay, this sounds awesome. But I hired really, really good people, and I don't need to observe them because I just hired really good people and I trust them and we're going to be okay." Like, what would you be telling that school leader if that's their thought?
I'd say, one, we want lifelong learners for everybody. So I would never want to feel like I'm done growing. And I hope that principal would never feel like they're done growing. And no matter how good your people are, even my very best A teachers that I've seen along the way, which I've seen tons of them, by the way, we all have room for growth. And so if you were to look at like the 9 areas of pedagogy, you couldn't master all of them in your lifetime. It's not possible. So I want you to see all your teachers and help all your teachers grow because they can grow even more. And sometimes, even if you're just saying, "Well, I just want to see maybe my teachers that aren't as strong," but by seeing the strongest teachers, you might go, "Oh, that teacher could help maybe another teacher that's not as strong." Or sometimes the strongest teachers are super creative and they might say, "Hey, I have this great idea that popped into my head." But if you haven't built that relationship with them, then that idea might not get shared. They can influence the whole school. So
That's a good point. All right. So last question I got, or actually I got two questions for you. If somebody hires you, they're doing this, what is the tangible takeaway that they're going to get? Is there anything in their hands? They get like this PDF that has like, "Here's so-and-so teacher and here's her score and her grade on it," or what is it?
Well, no scores and grades, but
what does it look like?
Yeah. So, I mean, we've got resources obviously, but really what's it's about mastery training. Like we've all gone to workshops and you see a 1-off 2-hour thing and you try and bring it back to your class, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. But I don't want that. I want you to know what you're doing inside, outside, backwards, and forward by the end of the week. And so we practice over and over again. We fill out that form over and over together. And it goes from being really hard and daunting to like, "Oh, I got this." We go over the form and what are the different things we all see together. And I see what you saw and you see what I saw. You get stronger and stronger. We practice the reflective conversation. There's a lot that you have to unpack in that. We actually even have a script to help you. We want you to find your own voice. But you, over the course of the week, you probably lead it 4 times, but you watch the other people on your team do it 8 times. And I have a success criteria sheet. You're filling out the success criteria sheet. So you're formatively assessing your teammates along the way, what does that do? That helps build your own practice. And then we talk about it. So over the end of the week, you've got it down solid. So afterwards, you're only going to get better at what you do. So there's resources, sure, but the resources just come with it. What you really get is you get mastery of a system.
All right. My last final question that I got for you is this. All this has been advice, obviously, and encouragement for school leaders. But if you had to share one final piece of advice for the school leaders listening, what would that one final piece of advice be?
It's all about relationships, and it's got to be caring. You got to come from your best spot all the time, even when sometimes you don't feel like it and you're frustrated, because it's the only way you're going to grow people.
That's 100% true, and it's all about trust. So I love it. Plug yourself one more time before we go for the listeners for your website and how they can get in contact with you, Craig.
Yeah, it's trustbase.com or Craig at trustbase.com and happy to set up a chat. No pressure at all. Happy to put you in touch with an introductory email to somebody that's been trained so you can hear their experience. That probably does a lot more than what I have to say about it. So
I love that. Cool. Craig, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for obviously making this available to schools from all over the world to get help and make their teachers better. So I love what you're doing and I appreciate you taking time today.
Hey, thanks so much for having me on, Mitch. I'm really grateful.
Well, another huge shout out and a thank you to Craig for taking time and being on the podcast today. I love what he's doing to help schools all over the world with observations of their staff and their teachers. And I'm hoping if that's something you guys need help with, you'll check it out. Or even if you don't, just buy the book and use that to help with your observations at your school, because it is pretty cool. And obviously it's making your school better. It's making your staff better and the experience for your students better as well. Before you guys head out, I want to make sure you are aware of our 3 free resources here available at School Success. And you already got one of the 3 down, guys. It's the podcast, man. We're dropping weekly episodes every Monday morning completely for free. And we want to make sure you're not missing any of them. So if you're not yet subscribed, we'd love you to subscribe. And if you haven't yet left a 5-star review and you love our content, we would love a 5-star review. It doesn't cost you anything to do that. And it means a lot to myself and our team because we do work really, really hard to get these podcasts out to you guys each and every week. So we'd love that. The second free resource is on our website, schoolsuccessmakers.com. Top right-hand corner is a button, the School Success Report. It is a weekly email we send directly to your inbox with different resources, articles our teams have either written or found online to help you be more successful as a school leader. So make sure you're not missing out on the School Success Report. And then last but not least is our free Facebook community, School Success Makers. Like I said, completely free, but it is for all school leaders to join to get to know other school leaders in the space. There's a few at the moment. I think there's a few hundred that are in there. You can ask questions, get to know other people across mostly the United States, but there are some international in there as well. And I'm personally in there. I'd love to see you in there as well to get to know you and your school and what you're doing. But you need community in your life. You need support. And that is what that community is there for. As always, if you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, or ideas, you please let us know. And you can do that through our website, schoolsuccessmakers.com. Other than that, we will be back here next week with another awesome guest as usual on the School Success Podcast. We'll see you then. The views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of the Herzog Foundation.